Lovelies. Today I'll be reading 5 times Izuku crashed Hitoshi's place uninvited and 1 time Hitoshi invited him over, written by Bellacorn123. You're gonna be shocked to hear this, but it's a Shindeku fic. With Izuku, trans, and quirkless Izuku. Izuku stays quirkless. Yeah, I'm gonna read the summary now. Hanging from a pipe with one hand, Izuku looked into the window that, provided he had calculated correctly, should lead into the apartment of the boy with the cool quirk that he had noticed in his dad's class list. Sure enough, inside there was a purple-haired boy. Tapping on the glass, Izuku grinned, giving the boy, Shinzo, a wave and chuckling to himself as Shinzo jumped out of his skin before quickly moving to open the window. Immediately, Izuku flipped in, sitting on the windowsill, half in, half out, and weirdly comfortable. Who are you? What are you doing here? How are you here? We're like 7 floors up. Why are you here? What is going on? The boy spluttered, and Izuku just hopped down, patting Shinzo's head gently. Or, exactly what the title says. This was written for... I'm so scared of butchering this name, and I don't know how I would. It's 2 English names. Nugget_Bucket on AO3, and for their birthday, and with the same requirements that this fic had, also on AO3, there's 5 times Izuku felt dysphoric and 1 time he didn't. Apparently it's very different. I haven't read it personally, but if you wanted to read that, you could go into AO3 by Hufflestar. I don't know if I already said that. That's who the alternative fic is written by. 1. Chaos Incarnate. Hanging from a pipe with one hand, Izuku looked into the window that, provided he had calculated correctly, should lead into the apartment of the boy with the cool quirk that he had noticed in his dad's class list. Sure enough, inside there was a purple-haired boy. Tapping on the glass, Izuku grinned, giving the boy, Shinzo, a wave and chuckling to himself as Shinzo jumped out of his skin before quickly moving to open the window. Immediately, Izuku flipped in, sitting on the windowsill, still in, half out, and weirdly comfortable. Who the fuck are you? What are you doing here? How are you here? We're like 7 floors up. Why are you here? What is going on? The boy spluttered, and Izuku just hopped down, patting Shinzo's head gently. Wow, Kachan says I ramble a lot, but that's a lot of questions, even for me. Does that have something to do with your quirk? Most people feel inclined to do things that help to activate their quirk. Like Kachan loves to exercise, because his quirk works with his sweat, which is gross, but oh well. Shinzo blinked at him like somehow Izuku was the one being weird, which, to be fair, was probably accurate. After all, he wasn't exactly the most normal person ever. But still, who are you? Shinzo repeated, seeming more than a little fixated on that. Depends on who you ask. My dad's called me Izuku. The police go with Nagato. I searched the name up just before. I swear, I don't think that's how it's pronounced, though. Because that was my impulsive name choice when they asked. But most people call me Yamazawa, and All Might refuses all of those and demands to call me by my dead name. But he's a bit of a bigoted dumbass, so who cares about that? Anyways, you're Shinzo Hitoshi, right? Because it is going to be so awkward to explain to my dads that I told a random civilian all my names, so I really hope I'm right. Yeah? I'm Shinzo. What are you doing here? Izuku blinked, surprised by the question for a second before registering it was probably pretty reasonable. Having pro-heritage parents really fucked up his understandings of what was normal. People coming in through the window, normal for him, but not so much for most people. Right. Oh, my parents teach you, and I had questions about your quirk, but they were like, you have to ask him yourself, which I think is just them trying to convince me to go to school despite having graduated several years earlier and not wanting to. But I, like the icon I am, worked out a way to ask you without going to school. So tell me everything. Are you, like, mentally stable? Depends on the day, Izuku replied. Today's a good day, Izuku hummed, flopping onto the couch dramatically and making himself quite at home. Right then. Izuku looked over at the boy, taking in his appearance more thoroughly. He was a hero student, so the muscles weren't exactly a surprise, and given he was repeatedly running his hands through his hair, it was bound to be ruffled. But by the logic of those things being obvious and explained, didn't make them any less hot. Not that Izuku was going to say anything about that. You said your parents teach me. Does that mean they're pro-heroes? Shinzo asked, breaking the silence that had fallen as Izuku had studied his features intently. Oh, yeah, I think you call them Aizawa and Mike. Why Mama has to use their hero name at school, but Dad doesn't, is beyond me. Actually, no, Mama is dramatic like that. Shinzo stared at him, seeming to be debating if he should question it or not, before simply accepting it. 2. Angst incarnate. Izuku didn't know where he was going, just that he had to get away. He had to get away and he couldn't go home, not right now, and he just had to keep moving until he found somewhere to stop, to hide, to breathe. He was barely aware of himself, certainly not enough to question it, as he pulled to a stop outside of an apartment window that had his brain screaming was safe. It took all of his strength not to just slam a fist until it broke, simply dragging the window open and throwing himself inside, kneeling to the ground with racking broken sobs that were finally able to escape him. Feeling arms wrap around him, Izuku squirmed instinctively, trying to break free of the hold, of the danger, of the control. But instantly the arms loosened, allowing him to turn towards the person. Purple eyes stared down at him in clear worry, and Izuku choked, falling forwards and letting the arms catch him and pull him close. Hey, Greenie, you're okay. You're alright. I've got you. Izuku ignored the words, ignored the comfort, ignored all of it. Instead, he let his mind fall back to what had happened, to how much he had fucked up. He had failed the girl. He had let them hurt her, and he had failed to save her. He should have been faster, have been better, been less distracted. Maybe then he could have helped her. Maybe then she would have been okay. But he hadn't. He had been too late, too slow, too weak. Maybe All Might was right. Maybe a useless, quirkless, pathetic girl was doomed to be just that forever. Doomed to be useless, doomed to be quirkless, doomed to be pathetic, doomed to be a girl. It didn't matter what Izuku did, didn't matter what he tried, and if he succeeded, because when it came down to it, he was just a quirkless kid trying to be a hero, if the only way he knew how. And right now, he wasn't even succeeding at that. If he had a quirk, that girl would still believe. Hell, if he hadn't gotten involved, she might have lived. But no, Izuku had to be more, had to try to be a hero when even the hero of heroes, the symbol of peace, the number one pro, told him to give up and go home. Greenie, talk to me. What happened? What's going on? Izuku wanted to curl up at the words, wanted to soak in the comfort of the virtual stranger who, for some unknown reason, seemed to care about him. Greenie, hey, talk to me. It's Izuku. You can call me Izuku. He choked out. He knew he had given the boy his name last time he had been there, but it had been alongside every other name he went by, and Shinzo probably didn't know which one to use. Okay, can you show me what's going on? Shinzo asked, and Izuku just shook his head. How could he tell someone he had messed up and someone had gotten killed for it? There was a reason he couldn't go home. How could he tell his parents what he had done? How could he live with himself? The worst part was he knew what they would say. He knew what they say it wasn't his fault. They would say that accidents happen. They would say it was the villain's fault, not his. But it didn't change the fact that someone had died, and if he had just been better, maybe they wouldn't have. It took a few hours of quiet comfort before Izuku admitted in a soft whisper, admitting that the girl had died because he hadn't been good enough. "Oh, Izu," Shinzo murmured, holding him tighter. "I'm so sorry that happened." He didn't deny it, didn't tell Izuku it didn't matter, didn't claim it wasn't Izuku's fault, just quietly understood the way Izuku was hurting and sympathized. He knew if he asked, Shinzo would probably tell him it wasn't his fault, or at least not entirely, but somehow the boy had known that wasn't what Izuku needed or wanted to hear. Izuku did eventually go home that night, did talk to his dads, who of course were supportive in all the right ways, because as much as Izuku forgot it sometimes, they knew him well and knew how to work through things. It had been nice, though, having somewhere else to go when he had been too scared to face it straight away. 3. Crime Incarnate. The next time Izuku found himself knocking on that window, it was with a lot more frantic need, because for some reason it was locked and he needed to get in, needed to hide. The moment it had been unlocked, he launched himself inside, slamming the window shut behind him and ducking out of sight. Shinzo stared at him, obviously confused, but Izuku put a finger to his lips, hiding beneath the window and listening. Only once he was sure there was no one left chasing him did he turn to Shinzo to explain. "Want to tell me why you just hid in my apartment as about 10 pro heroes and 5 police cars with sirens on went hauling past outside?" "I punched All Might," Izuku squeaked. It had been more than deserved, but still, undeniably, was not the best decision of his life. "You... what?" Shinzo blinked, staring at Izuku with a pretty valid amount of confusion. "Well, All Might was being transphobic to Magne. Like, she's a villain, yes, but that's no excuse to be a transphobic bitch. And then Endeavor was cheering him on, so I jumped out and punched him. I was going to punch Endeavor too, but punching All Might didn't exactly go over well with the heroes and cops who were there, so I had to make a run for it, and you were closer than home, so..." Izuku explained, the words bubbling out of him at the speed of light, only to trail off at the end, unsure how to really finish this. "How did you manage to even get away?" Shinzo asked, confusion in his eyes. "Oh, well, I think the League of Villains might have appreciated my actions, because they defended me while I ran. Also, Compress gave me this," Izuku replied, holding out the marble, not completely sure what he was supposed to do with it. It seemed to have a phone in it, but he had no clue how to break it out. "But, yeah, that's why everyone is after me." Shinzo stared at him for a long moment before groaning and dropping his head into his hands. "So I'm harboring a wanted fugitive?" "To be fair, I've been a wanted fugitive from the start. I'm a vigilante, silly." Izuku chuckled, letting out the stress that had built up as he manically attempted to escape the heroes in that one light laugh. "And Mike Sensei and Aizawa Sensei are fine with this?" "Yeah, or well, they prefer when I don't do exceptionally dangerous shit, so I will most definitely get a lecture about this one. But they don't mind my vigilante activities. They know it's the only thing keeping me from going completely and utterly feral." "Huh," Shinzo snorted, rocking back on his heels as slightly before joining Izuku on the floor underneath the window, leaning his back against the wall, brushing his shoulder against Izuku's. "Well, I'm not going to snitch, but you have to promise that the next time you get the chance, you'll punch Endeavor. One of my classmates is his kid, and the stuff I have learned about that man makes me want to murder him myself." "Oh, I will, don't you worry." Izuku grinned. It was nice to have someone encourage him on the more dangerous and impulsive dangerous and impulsive choices. His dads wanted to protect him, and he appreciated that, but sometimes he wanted someone to encourage him to murder a bitch of a pro hero. The two hung out for a long while, Shinzo warning him that if Izuku showed up here and his parents were home, he would need to use the front door. And Izuku just shrugged and obnoxiously did not promise anything. Front doors were for losers. At some random moment, the bumble transformed back into a phone, and together they opened it, discovering it had the numbers of the League of Villains all entered in. Well, that was sure to be interesting. 4. Trans Incarnate. Much to everyone's surprise, Izuku did use the front door for the next visit, despite Shinzo's parents both not being at home. Izuku? Shinzo asked, letting him in. What's going on? Izuku just hugged himself tighter, hating everything about this. He'd fucked up. He knew the rules, knew he wasn't supposed to wear his binder on patrol, and he knew he shouldn't patrol on days like these, but he needed to get out. He needed to deal with it. Shinzo? Nope. Izuku? Shinzo called again. Following after him, Izuku just dropped his head lower and continued to silently walk to Shinzo's room. Finally, he made it, sitting on the edge of the bed and waiting for Shinzo to close the door behind him. Only then did he explain. I fucked up. I'm trans. I normally wear a tight sports bra or binding tape when on patrol, but it was a bad day and it wasn't doing enough, but I needed to get out there. And patrol, it was fine. Everything was fine, but then that fucker with the strength-enhancing quirk fucking punched me, and now I have a broken rib, but I can't get my binder off, and I can't go home because my dads find out I was binding on patrol again. They might revoke patrol privileges, and I will lose it if that happens. Izuku curled up tighter, ignoring the screaming agony at the motion. What was he supposed to do? He wanted to go home, wanted to be with his dads, and have Mama tell him he was okay, that they were going to look after him, but he needed to be able to patrol. He couldn't be grounded again. He couldn't. I just want to go home, Izuku whispered. That's okay. That's okay. I've got you, alright? I'll help you with this one. We can get the binder off, then you will be able to go home, okay? I can't, though. I can't get it off. It hurts too fucking much when I try, and I just can't. Izuku cried, rubbing furiously at his eyes. It wasn't fair. Everything hurt today, even before the broken rib. He had just ached, and now with the rib on top of that, and likely tons of bruising he needed to get out of the binder for fear it would damage the rib more, but he just couldn't. I'll help you, Shinzo promised. You can face away from me, and as long as you can get your hands above your head, I will do the rest, okay? But I don't want you to see me as a girl, Izuku whispered, hating how weak this made him feel. He felt like he had lost all control, and he hated it. He wanted to be able to function, he wanted to be in control, but he couldn't. He was fucking stuck in his binder. I won't, I promise, Shinzo murmured. I get it. I don't care that you're trans. It doesn't make you any less male to me, okay? I don't care what parts you have. I don't at all. Staring at Shinzo for a long moment, Izuku calculated his options. There really were only two. Let Shinzo help him out of the binder, or go home and get help from his parents, where he'd have to admit to wearing his binder. It had been a one-off. He had gotten so good at not wearing the binder for patrol, but he had just needed to today. He didn't care about getting in trouble, but he did care about getting grounded. Patrol was one of the things keeping him sane, especially given the hours spent alone when his dads were at school. Mama would understand. His dad would too, but the problem was that it wasn't that simple. They would understand, but they would still make him take days off. Hesitantly, Izuku nodded, standing and turning away from Shinzo, shoving down all his embarrassment at the entire situation. The other boy didn't say anything, just helped him out of his hoodie. then the shirt, then carefully the binder, all the while avoiding any contact that could possibly cause any more pain to the rib, but not avoiding all contact, not making Izuku feel like he was diseased. It was nice. It was until Shinzo froze completely. Fuck, his scars. He barely thought about them now, so used to them always being covered up and out of sight. But for someone seeing them the first time, seeing the things his mother had done to him when he still lived with her, the things she did every time she thought Izuku was trying to be a boy, every time he hadn't been girly enough for her. Izuku winced, wishing he could cover it up, but not having any ability to do so. "How'd you get so much back muscle?" Shinzo asked, quietly, pulling the binder off the rest of the way and helping him back into his shirt. It clearly wasn't the question he wanted to ask, but Izuku was grateful regardless. "Dad and Mama helped me train. It helps to have more power behind punches and other stuff," Izuku replied, deeply thankful as his hoodie was pulled back on, disguising his chest somewhat. They returned to sit on the edge of the bed, and Izuku just quickly surveyed the room, finally taking in the slight purple tint to the walls that he had assumed were just white. The light in the middle of the room was on at the moment, but there was also LED lights tracing around the room, and fairy lights decorating it as well. The corner of the room housed a desk with a large PC on it, as well as a massive pile of papers that Izuku could only assume were homework, and a mug with a cat on it that was full of pens and a gay pride flag. Izuku hadn't picked up on that from Shinzo, which was odd because his gaydar was usually fairly good. Oh well, it wasn't like that mattered. Not after what had just happened. There was no way Shinzo would ever be interested in someone like Izuku. "Thank you, Shinzo," Izuku murmured, cutting off his thoughts before they got too painful. "Of course, and you can call me Hitoshi." "Thank you, Hitoshi." Izuku smiled, looking over at the boy for a moment. "I should probably head home before my dads get worried." "Be safe," Hitoshi called after him, and Izuku nodded, giving him a wave and heading for the window. 5. Gay Incarnate. "Yo, Hitoshi, you home?" Izuku called as he let himself through the window. He heard a muffled sound from Hitoshi's room, so immediately headed there. Just as he was reaching for the door handle, ready to ramble about the weird interaction he had had with Stain, but before he could, the door opened, revealing Hitoshi with a towel tied around his waist and another one drying his hair. "Hey, Izuku, have you ever considered calling ahead?" Hitoshi asked, but Izuku was too busy turning bright red at the fucking gorgeous sight of him before him to form a reply. Holy shit, the fucking muscles this man had. The abs, the arms, this was exactly the sort of thing that would have Izuku drooling over someone, and knowing Hitoshi was gay, and nice, and funny, and cared about him. Fuck. Izuku was too gay for this. Far too fucking gay for this. "Hi." Izuku choked out, unable to form pretty much any other words. Hitoshi blinked at him, throwing the towel he had been using on his hair into a basket of laundry, shaking his hair out in a way that made him impossibly more beautiful. Holy fucking shit. "Are you okay?" Yep, I'm fine," Izuku squeaked, forcing himself to snap his gaze away from Hitoshi, looking anywhere but at the fucking beautiful guy. Hitoshi tilted his head, looking at Izuku, calculating for a long second before his eyes lit up. What was happening? Why was he suddenly so excited? What did he think was happening? If anything, Hitoshi should be upset that Izuku was gay for him. After all, there was no way that Izuku was anything like he wanted. Do you like this? Hitoshi asked, running his hand through his hair, but the slightly confused frown remained, seeming thoroughly uncertain over what to do. That didn't change the pure level of gorgeousness that Hitoshi exuded. Holy fucking shit, Izuku is gay. So very, very gay. Izuku stuttered, face flaring red as the Nintendo logo. You do? Hitoshi gasped, smile widening, turning almost feral with joy. Izuku looked down, trying to hide the bright flush. Hitoshi, in turn, laughed lightly at the motion, reaching forward to pull Izuku's chin up, forcing their gazes to meet. Fuck, that was hot. Hitoshi was hot. All of this was so fucking hot. Izuku couldn't stop himself. He nodded desperately. Suddenly, Hitoshi moved, pushing Izuku against the wall, holding him there for a second, muscles tightening enough to become even more defined. Catching Izuku's greedy eyes, Hitoshi loosened for a second, giving Izuku all the opportunities to escape, but Izuku just pressed further back against the wall, practically begging for him to come closer, to be closer. Thankfully, Hitoshi complied, pressing closer, lips hovering, barely a millimeter away from Izuku's, almost teasingly. Is this okay? Yes, Izuku gasped, pressing his lips against Hitoshi's, dragging him closer, desperately trying everything he could to get Hitoshi's body pressed against his. Hitoshi seemed just as eager, pressing so hard against Izuku that he could feel the wall digging into his back, but Izuku was too busy lapping up all the attention Hitoshi was giving him to care. Exploring Hitoshi's mouth with desperation, Izuku groaned into the kiss, his hands finding purchase on Hitoshi's still slightly wet skin. Fucking hell, that was hot. Izuku's hands fumbled slightly, catching on the towel, and he squeaked. Had he not been pushed against the wall, he might have pulled back, might have asked if Hitoshi wanted to finish getting changed or something, might have gone the more respectful route, but instead, Hitoshi just pressed harder against him, lips separating to move to Izuku's jaw with all the desperation Izuku himself felt, and he could only moan into the motion, gripping at Hitoshi's hips, not even remotely caring about the risk of the towel dropping. Although Izuku wasn't actively against that happening, he just didn't want to push too far, to move too fast. Hitoshi, however, seemed to have no concern about that, just moving to suck another hickey into Izuku's neck, nipping just hard enough to draw out yet another moan. Fuck, fuck, fuck. That was so fucking hot. Izuku was going to fucking lose it. When they eventually pulled apart, the sound of a key rattling in the lock at the front door, dragging them out of their euphoric little world and back to the present. Shit, that's my parents, Hitoshi hissed, pulling away quickly. Izuku froze, not quite ready to meet the parents, especially not with the hickeys he knew were littering his jaw and neck. It would be hard enough to explain that to his own parents, let alone Hitoshi's. Somehow, Hitoshi seemed to notice Izuku's concerns and waved him off. Go out the window. You can meet them some other time when I'm actually dressed so they don't make assumptions. Izuku squeaked, face flushing at the realization of what it would look like they had been doing. And he dashed out the room, pulling his mask on as he flipped out the window. He shoved it close behind him and pressed himself against the wall, Breathing heavily, he listened in as Hitoshi's parents called their greetings to the boy before using his grappling hook to swing away, headed back to his own place. He was not looking forward to explaining himself to his dad. But Mama, they were sure to have a good gossip session after this, just once his dad had finished his lecture. +1. Gay. 2. Incarnate. Izuku was bouncing on the balls of his feet, nerves racking around his body. Holy shit, he was excited. He had convinced his mama to give Hitoshi his phone number. He hadn't dared ask his dad, who would likely take the opportunity to give Hitoshi the shovel talk. And with that sorted, he had quickly gotten a message from his now official boyfriend. Toshi, my love. Hi, heart emoticon. It's Toshi. Toshi, my love. I was wondering if you maybe wanted to come over this afternoon. Toshi, my love. My parents will be home, but they have promised to give us space, and I've called dibs on the TV. Love, Bug Zoo. I would love to. Smiley face emoticon. Love, Bug Zoo. Is there anything I can help bring? Anything I can bring? Toshi, my love. Your beautiful self. Heart emoticon. Love, Bug Zoo. Drawn out. Heart emoticon. That I can do. Now, Izuku was wearing his nicest casual clothes, not wanting to seem overdressed for a TV date, but still wanting to look good. He had come through the door once more, this time knocking and waiting for someone to open it. The door opened to reveal Hitoshi's mother, and Izuku bowed respectfully, greeting her and doing his best to make a good impression before Hitoshi came to his rescue and dragged him away, shutting the door behind them. Only once the door was shut did Izuku allow himself to look at his boyfriend, who was wearing a simple black halter-neck and some black, ripped skinny jeans. Basically, he looked hot as fuck. Hi, Izuku whispered. Hi yourself, Hitoshi teased gently, his hand immediately going to Izuku's chin, eyes flickering to meet Izuku's for a second. A quick question at the confirmation, he placed a delicate kiss on Izuku's lips. You're so pretty, Izuku murmured, looking over all of Hitoshi, over the muscle the halter-neck displayed, over the form that the tight clothes did nothing to hide. So fucking beautiful. Looking pretty handsome yourself, sweetheart. Hitoshi replied immediately, his own eyes straying over Izuku's body, seeming to take it all in with the same reverence Izuku felt. Fuck, Hitoshi was so perfect. Izuku pulled Hitoshi back in closer, and just before he could press a kiss to the other boy's lips, he noticed the simple eyeliner that shaped Hitoshi's eyes. Fuck, that was gorgeous. You like it? Hitoshi asked quietly, noticing where Izuku's attention had strayed to. I like all of you, but yeah, I like it. A lot. Hitoshi chuckled, pressing a kiss to the tip of Izuku's nose, all elegant and gentle and beautiful. So beautiful, it wasn't fair how beautiful it was. It took a long while, but eventually Izuku found the strength to pull away. He knew they needed to talk before anything went further. I know you don't mind the whole me being trans thing, but you said that when we were just friends, and I know you're gay, and I don't want you to feel like you have to settle or something because of me. I won't be upset, I won't be upset at you. I just want to know now before anything happens and I get too attached. Izuku, love, I do not care what you were born as. I care about who you are. I care about your gorgeous, beautiful face. I care about your sweet laugh and your chaotic nature and your funny stories. I care about you. I fell for you, not some idea of who you are. You, just you. You are a boy, and I care about you a lot. And you said yes, so you are my boyfriend. I find no problems with that. Okay? Okay. Izuku agreed, his hesitation lasting only a few moments. He knew Hitoshi. He trusted Hitoshi. Hell, even his dads trusted Hitoshi, who reliably checked Mama's bracelets to work out which pronouns to use. Hitoshi hadn't even hesitated when Izuku needed help getting his binder off. Everything about Hitoshi screamed perfect, safe, loving, good. But Izuku had still needed to check, had needed to know that Hitoshi wouldn't leave him for being trans. Wouldn't decide that Izuku wasn't enough of a boy. Here, though, with Hitoshi looking at him, eyes full of love, Izuku couldn't help but believe. Alright, lovelies, that was 5 times Izuku crashed Hitoshi's place uninvited, and 1 time Hitoshi invited him over. Warning, I'm about to say what I say every time. I love this fic. My poor voice, I'm sorry. I've been reading a lot today and speaking a lot today, so my voice is very sore after recording this. I love 5+1s. Yeah. 5+ things, sorry. I just looked at the tag. And I love Shindeku. It's so sweet. Like, it has to be one of my all-time favorite ships. At least in My Hero. There are, like, I do have some other favorites, but definitely, like, up there. I'm very glad that they got together. You can hear periods of time where I had to pause before I spoke because I was starting to smile at what I was reading. And if I smile when I read in Hitoshi's or Izuku's voice, it'll come out in... Oh my gosh, sorry, my voice is horrible. It'll come out in just like a real... It just won't come out well. It won't... I can't get the voice out right. And I already struggle with Hitoshi's voice enough, so yeah, I tried. Reading out texts in fics must be one of the hardest things because I kept repeating their contact name, and I know I don't need to, but I did it for the first 3, and then I realized that I couldn't just go back and stop now, so I had to keep going, and it just didn't really go how I wanted it to. I like how you can tell how much care went into this fic. Like, just you can tell how they're written, how the characters are written. Though I do know that Bellacorn 1, 2, 3 have written quite a lot. I think they only write, if not primarily write My Hero. Yeah, I just went and checked. There are 4 other works in other fandoms. Yeah. Sorry, I just opened their account and I read a description while actively reading the, while talking, so I paused because I was, I hope you guys liked this too. I did. I know I did. As always, remember to eat, drink, and sleep, and have a good rest of your day, night, or afternoon, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!